All right, looks like we've got everyone back now. So, any highlights, any characters that you all came up with that were specifically really good? I know our room had some.
And video and present ours.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So we created an anti-tooth fairy, basically. Just like a really jacked but short man who has a teeny tiny chainsaw and goes and like cuts out cavity teeth and replaces them with like already filled in teeth. And we spent a lot of time just on the one character, just like really developing his whole look. He wears footy pajamas, but he cuts the toe off only. And he has a headband like with antenna that have dentures on it that can bite his enemies. And he does carry around a giant sack filled with teeth.
Of course.
Does in fact shake like a maraca when he
walks. Yes, he can play them. He is a musician as well. It's his day job.
He also did go to dentist school, but his license was understandably revoked, we decided.
I'm expecting that you're gonna have a drawing or picture of this at some point, right, MJ?
Oh, naturally.
I have many questions.
Fire away. We're ready.
We are ready to answer them.
Wait, okay, so does he give anesthesia before he just starts cutting out the tooth? Because I feel like
no, that's for wussies.
So
in his words, that's for wussies.
So what I'm understanding is that this is a small dude. How does he stop the person?
He's like 5 feet tall. He's like 5 feet tall, but he is absolutely jacked. Think The Rock if The Rock was 5 feet tall.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like a small, like, I don't know, 8 inches tall or something.
The Rock was like in a movie called The Tooth Fairy. Is that what it's based upon? Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, and really second question. You mentioned enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
The police.
Kill tooth fairy, all dentists everywhere. People who make candy. We decided that he like has good intentions, but just like is the worst.
And has 100 teeth in his mouth.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
He does take the old cavity teeth and make dentures like a shark for himself. I did forget.
Why would he make dentures out of the bad teeth? Like, wouldn't he want good teeth to make his own dentures, or is he just like?
Because he can.
That's fair. I kind of like that idea.
My group came up with one. You know how February 14th is Valentine's Day?
Mm-hmm.
February 15th is Singles Awareness Day. So our guy will come up to you if you're like single, and he'll like offer you a box of chocolates, and we'll be prepared to talk about your day.
That's very touching.
Very wholesome, very good.
Yes. Anybody else wants to share? I know we had some good ones in our group too. Hey, Tegan, what was yours? Like a guy who went around poisoning people?
Okay. I based mine off of something that I chose, I guess, either Halloween or the winter solstice. But there's a dude, I believe, in Chicago. It's been a while since I learned about this, so my facts may not be 100% right, but the main story still counts. It's like the right thing. But there was a dude who went around poisoning people, like secretly. So he's like a serial killer, and no one could catch him. So whenever somebody would like find out a little bit about him, he would then kill them. So he went on like killing people like over the course of a long period of time because no one could ever figure out it was him. And so I kind of would base like a character off of that, just because like if you look at the Grim Reaper, who was also a big holiday character, he was also a real person who lived in the Whitechapel district in the United Kingdom. which I feel like a lot of people don't realize. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very intense.
I dig it.
Yeah.
And trying to think about the other ones. The other one that I remembered very distinctly that we talked about was John's, where we had a very tall skeleton, like
The 30-foot skeleton from Home Depot specifically.
Yeah, from Home Depot specifically, that got mechanized so it could move, and then it would steal children that took more than their fair share of candy. So like if the sign says take one and they took two, then bye.
Yeah.
We didn't
to take
decide
them.
where they would go.
Just the South Pole. I don't know, wherever Halloween creatures live.
Wherever skeletons live, the South Pole.
Yeah, naturally.
They just, I don't know, it's just like they just suck them down to the ground. I don't know.
That's not how the South Pole works, but okay.
Shut up. I'm not a polar scientist. Casey, you want to share yours?
Sure. Mine was a evil Easter bunny who would put like bad stuff in the eggs and give them to little children.
You can tell a group kind of had a theme.
I'm liking the anti-character vibe, like a Krampus, but for every holiday.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think Andrew Wing had one too that was like anti-Santa.
Yeah, it looks like Santa. It wasn't the Grinch or like Krampus, but it was Santa, and it went around stealing presents.
So just like a burglar.
Yeah, it's a burglar that looks like Santa.
Nice.
Anybody else want to share any characters before we move on? Nobody? All right. All right.
Also had a good one. She said that if 2020 had a mascot, it would just be just a demon, which was solid.
Just, yeah. That's probably accurate.
Okay. So we're going to continue. So this is the team placement for just kind of like overall. I know it gets a little confusing because like you have your HAB teams, which are more just like payload design teams. And then this is more the team that you're going to be on basically throughout your time in the club, unless you want to switch at any point. So this will be like special systems is a lot of perovskites, other stuff that is probably not perovskites. Mechanical is like temperature control, attitude adjustment, stuff like that. And then obviously, physical construction, and then electrical, pretty self-explanatory. A lot of electrical work, a lot of coding. Probably get to learn how to solder, which would be cool. Does anybody have any questions about these placements? Anything like that? And then we'll also post this to Slack for everyone to just reference. Skip. Okay. And
yeah.
Joel, okay. Perfect.
Yeah. I'm going to let you keep sharing the slides because my internet has been really weird. It got upgraded, so it's faster, but now it's just really unstable. So I apologize if I get kicked off again. But kind of what we're going to move into is the concept design review, or the CODR. That presentation will be next Saturday. It's not a super giant presentation. It's more the why and, just a brief description of your payload. And we'll have a little bit of a description, or not a description, an example afterwards, just to show you a little bit of what it should look like. And then we have kind of a little, you would almost say, rubric that you guys can use when you're working on it this week. But just to take a look from the CODR and going forward, there's really 4 major presentations within this design process that we've boiled it down to. You guys should all be familiar with the PDR, or the preliminary design review, because you gave the preliminary design review to the Board of NASA Scientists in October, the SAC Museum, which is more of a technical details. It's that first checkpoint once you have most everything, or I would say about 80% of things figured out. And then you go to people who, have that experience, who know more than you do, and say, does this sound good? Does this sound bad? And really get that outside opinion. And normally in a typical aerospace like design process, there's going to be more checks than this, but we kind of condense it down a little bit into just 4 major presentations. The critical design review is going to be, you have everything together. You've definitely started testing each of the subsystems, maybe even started integrating a little bit. And, in the quotes, this is how it will go. You have almost everything figured out. And if something isn't quite right in that presentation within your technical design, you really need to focus on that right after you figure that out. And then the mission readiness review, everything is almost built and, ready to go. And you're just making plans almost for the launch day and all that. And then I just have a little bit of an example from a high altitude balloon preliminary design review, or not preliminary, concept design review that the AXP team did last year, kind of in March, I want to say. So normally there'd be a title slide, of course, but the main things in a concept design review, you're going to have your mission statement, of course, kind of your objectives, theory and concepts of operation. I can talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then what you expect to get out of this, mission that you're putting together. And I just threw a little bit of the design in there too, because we can start thinking about that. We don't need to have that worked out, but just start thinking about the design, and you can include that in your presentation as well. Yeah, you can go ahead again. Yep, so this is the mission statement that we had for this project. I'll let you guys read that yourself. But, you guys, I think all of the different payloads have their mission statements from the last time we met. And those might change a little bit, it sounds, today and this week, but hopefully we should have that, nailed down going into the future. But the mission statement is pretty self-explanatory. You can go ahead again. But objectives, this is maybe not so much objectives for launch like success criteria, but objectives for your team. In the PDR, kind of those slides, I think Casey and Katie, you guys worked on these slides, you did a great job in the PDR. But just more of what the team is trying to get out of this, the knowledge gained. I think this slide does a pretty good job of explaining it and just providing a good example. Yeah, you can continue. Yep, and success criteria, something that's really helpful with success criteria is to have minimum success criteria and, comprehensive, or what would happen if everything went absolutely right, just so you know what you need to be aiming for to get done for sure. And if you do end up having extra time, you can go towards those, those stretch goals. And a concept of operations, hopefully you all have seen something similar to this, but this is kind of the timeline when it comes to the launch. You're gonna have your launch, maybe even have some pre-launch stuff, like you need to turn the power on, you need to begin data collection, and then you launch, you're in ascent, you're at apogee, which is that top part when the balloon would pop, and then we start falling down again. And just what happens in those different stages if your payload has anything different that can go on. But this is just something that's always good to include in something that needs to be launched like this when it's these, half hour before and during that launch is maybe the most important half hour of this entire process. So it's good to start planning now rather than later. Yeah, and this is just, a more detailed, different way to view the concept of operations. And then expected results. Very similar to success criteria, but just kind of a different way to put it and to think about it in a different way. But yeah, I didn't want to present these slides, but just kind of talk over them, the good and bad parts of the concept design review. If you guys all go to Slack, there's the file sharing channel, and the most recent thing that got sent should be a link to a folder for the Spring 2021 Hab launch, and that is where there was the project outline that you guys were working on last meeting, and there should also be a couple different things added there. The CODR requirements sheet, which MJ, since you're sharing, I don't know if you want to maybe look at that. Yeah, but it just kind of lays out kind of what was in that example presentation, and that example presentation is also in that folder, and should really, if you guys have any questions during the week while you're working on this presentation, you should be able to reference those, and then if you have any further questions, of course, some of the AXP team members can answer those for you. Yep, and it's almost a little outline there for what goes into the CODR. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? I know definitely when I first got started on some of these types of presentations, it was a little confusing. So I don't want to talk too much just about this to everyone, but I tried to put this sheet together because I think that's probably would have helped me the most when I was first getting started. All right. Does that sound good then? And additionally, in that folder, there's the CODR presentation. I know in the past, different teams have had their own presentations, but since each of these payloads are going into one overall project, I think it'd be great if we can condense it all into that one presentation and just each have sections for each payload. Sounds good to everyone? All right. So, and I know we'll have some work time most likely at the end of this meeting where you can get started on these. And maybe have some time to read over the document as well. Yeah, I think that's everything for CODR then. Oh, the design overview, yeah. I included a little bit of that. Definitely not needed, but a lot of the time the CODR and the PDR can be integrated together. But since we do have the time, we're going to try and separate them. So you don't need to include any sort of design, things like that. But if you have the time and you're excited about it, feel free to go ahead and put together some of this and start thinking more specifically about the sensors you're going to use. And you could even, we have our sensor list in that shared folder as well that you guys have access to in file sharing. Yeah. And this is just an example of what this particular project was. So we have some videos to share, don't we? We don't. Okay.
We can go ahead and take a break. 10-ish minutes people need to go to the bathroom, grab a snack, do some jumping jacks. That would be. And then we'll, I guess, call back to order at about 10 till.
Sweet. Wait, MJ, do you have those DBF
No.
videos? Big sad.
Big sad indeed. I had other stuff that I had to do. Other videos to edit. We can watch Elsa and Gavin's interviews. If people want to do that. Gavin said no thanks. I don't mind. Nice. I think so. Is it the disco shirt? Then yes. Mm.
Oh, I have those DBF videos because you shared them in Slack.
Okay. You can show those then if you want to.
Yeah, 1 minute.
I have them downloaded now if you're not ready, John.
Okay, yeah. If your internet works.
We will hope it does. All right, and So do you guys see the propeller like shoot forward right there? Oh, it's kind of scary.
So that was not supposed to happen, right?
No, that definitely was not. Neither was that.
Oh my goodness.
So basically the premise behind these whole videos is the bigger plane that the propeller and the tail came off of is a project that's being worked on by a different like sub team of the Aerospace Club called Design Build Fly. And they do pretty much as it sounds, design a plane, they build it, and then they fly it every year for a competition that I think NASA hosts. And so this was their first design, basically test. And kind of going into it from talking to some of the people, I know that they said like, we pretty much just expect to crash, but we need to see what's going to happen in order to fix it. And as you saw, it didn't even really take off the ground there. The guy who tested it was a part of the Lincoln Sky Knights. And when they were inspecting the plane, a lot of the older people, part of the club there, were kind of like, I don't know, the tail looks kind of flimsy, like it might just shear off once you guys get off the ground. And so they did that test where he kind of bumped it up against his legs, and when it ripped off, they were like, yep, looks about right. They actually have another test flight at 1 o'clock today, which I will also be going and taking videos of, so we might be able to show those next week.
Ooh, cool.
Hopefully they'll get to fly, but I don't know, we wanted to show it this I guess particularly because it's important to know that like success means different things. You know, it's all in the context. Like it doesn't have to go perfectly. They weren't even expecting this to go perfectly. You know, they almost wanted to see it fail so that they could know where to improve. And so it's just important to keep in mind that like just because something doesn't go right, or just because, you know, it doesn't work out the first time, doesn't mean that it's not ever going to work. Or, you know, with a little bit of elbow grease. And I know that they worked really hard on making the improvements within a week, because I know a couple of them were in the lab pretty late last night, finishing up the plane, and are doing some more modifications before they leave today. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions about that? I don't think any of us are equipped to answer them, but we can try our best.
Let me add a little comment. It's really important to try and fail. The sooner you try it and the sooner you fail, the sooner you can fix it. And what happens is if you don't test something as you're going along, you get so invested in it, then even if you know it needs to be fixed, you don't want to change it because it's your baby. And so that's why it's really important to try and fail and know what you need to fix, and not get so far along that you just don't want to change it because you've already put so much into it.
Got about 6-ish minutes, I guess, before, you know, we're really gonna start again.
Looks like John McClure's here. Hi, John.
Hi, folks. Sorry about that. I'm just really slow these days.
No, that's fine.
One of the greatest things happened, according to all my associates. I have to not talk very much. So therefore, they're in heaven. Let me get rid of this background here. How's everyone's holiday?
Well,
good, good. That looks like a Goddard employee.
Oh.
That guy looks like a Goddard employee.
I got my little sweater to look all adult instead of just in my pajamas.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Hey, John, you never responded to the planning meeting. It looks like 16th looks good for everyone.
Yeah, I thought I did. Maybe it didn't work. I don't know.
Okay. You okay with 16th?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Hey, MJ, Doc's going to send you another advisory board profile, Mark Drilling, if you remember Mark. Mark was the chief of staff for Congressman Bacon. He's agreed to be on the advisory board. He's a real spacecraft operator.
Okay.
So,
nice.
So, and then we just have to put those up pretty quick because I'm going to go get Karen lots of money.
Yeah, I just need to finish writing up, I think, Karen and Sally's, and I just copy and pasted the other ones from the proposal. So those ones are
okay.
That
works.
I did interviews with Elsa and Gavin, and those should be up on there now.
Cool.
Should be cool.
I'm gonna be at the end of the month, or a little bit sooner, starting to blast stuff off. No pun intended. So, Karen, how was your holiday? Hi, Tegan. Tegan's hanging. What did I interrupt? That was pretty rude. That's everybody. How about if I shut up?
No, we love to have you and talk to you, John. I don't think you're happy talking about a DBF. So
I see. Helzer, you also have to give me a call and I'll give you a whole list of people you choose. And I've already put out RFPs for a bunch of Perscovite solar cells, see who coughs it up first. I'm coming to the belief that the cells are still in process and there's a lot of, maybe some big talk, so.
So we need to find out what companies we should ask, you're saying?
Yeah, just to run through and take a look at them. I compiled a list of all those.
Okay.
So anyway, and then we'll go from there. I got a bunch of stuff coming to you via Karen probably next week. Balloons and nano satellites and all kinds of good, happy stuff.
Awesome. Yes, we appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, John, what size did you say the balloon that you had was?
I still have to get the size. I honestly, I know where it's at. I just haven't gone down there. Yeah, I take as few trips downstairs as I can.
Yeah, that's fair.
I never get back up. I used to have those when I was in your background. I used to have one of those when I was 6.
John's board game?
What's that?
The board game behind John?
Yeah, ball game behind John.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what is
I haven't
that?
really ever played it. It's just kind of a decoration.
What is it?
Like pool.
Okay, cool.
Old school.
Very old school, yeah.
So since we watched those DBF videos, I have a question. See if any of you guys can figure this out. So, do most of you know what WD-40 is? Have you heard of that? Use it to oil things. Most of you know the Model T car. Do some of you know 409, the household cleaner? What do those 3 things have in common? WD-40, Model T, and 409.
You can tell that Joel knows because of his face.
So think about it. Think about their names.
Joel's enjoying himself.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
Jill, do you know, because I said it in class?
No, my 4th grade science teacher told me at least the 409 one,
Yeah.
and it blew my mind. But I think it's really, really cool.
Tell this
Anybody want to try? Model
What's that?
T, 409, WD-40. What do they have in common?
Elsa, you know. Robert. Come on, Tegan.
It's in the name.
Gavin or Katie don't know?
Sorry, I just got back. What's the question?
What do the Model T, WD-40, and 409 have in common? And it relates to their name. Does it have anything to do with 4 or a number? It has nothing to do with 4 specifically, but there is something related to numbers, kind of. Joel, you want to tell them what it is?
Can I just give them like a hint that might give it away?
Sure.
Yeah.
So like the Model T, there was once a Model A and a Model B. And there's WD-40, 409. Oh. Does that click any gears? There was a 408 solution.
What?
Oh, I was just typing it out so I could like see the letters.
No, I'm just curious, Joel. Like, what?
I mean,
I
that
don't know.
kind of implies that there was 408 other versions of 409 before they finally landed on one.
There you go.
Is that it?
It took 409 tries to get a good solution. WD-40, it took 40 tries, and actually what they ended up with wasn't what they were trying for. And there was a Model A through S car, and then the Model T was the one that was successful. And so for each of those, their names reflect the number of tries required before they actually got to something successful. Kind of interesting, huh?
And like
Yeah.
Edison tried, I think, thousands and thousands of materials in his first light bulb before, just exasperated and angry, he tried cardboard, and it seemed to work. Cardboard lit up very, very bright in the stuff that he had inside the bulb, like in that mixture of gases. Did not last very long. So, but he had cardboard made the first electric light bulb after something like, I want to say like 10,000 like other materials tried, but I don't know if that's an accurate number or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like on what we're trying to do, we need to do a lot of tries and testing before we get to the end, so that we don't get to the end and not be able to fix it and not have a satellite that's ready to go up, that's functional. John, you're muted.
Mute myself. I said, then that means that after we launch, BigSat-1 will be successful in one try, right?
We hope. That's the plan. But we may have some, on the ground tries where we find out that we need to change our designs a little bit, things we need to think about before we try and launch it.
Are all of those decimals then, all the ground testing ones, like Big Red Sat 0.2, Big Red Sat 0.3, until we get to 1?
Big Red Sat 1S, Big Red Sat 1, 2S. I don't know, use like the iPhone naming conventions.
Big Red Sat 1S Pro Plus.
Oh yeah.
Just Big Red Sat Pro.
Okay, I think we are going to get started again. I think Joel is frozen, or he's just very angrily staring at the screen.
Or he's just standing very, very still.
I would not be shocked. Some sort of like resistance training or something. Oops. I keep doing that. Okay, here we go. Break. And then, so we have a couple general announcements. We've had a lot of stuff thrown at us this past week, so this is going to be chocked full. Be prepared. So we were reached out to a group of universities through Taylor Curl, basically. Maxar has been mentoring this kind of like some of the universities as a part of this group, and then Taylor got connected with them, and then she connected them to us. And so basically, as you can see, it's a group of 20 plus universities around North America, and then a couple of other just like not affiliated people or groups. And they're all CubeSat developers, very new to the game. for everyone. And so specifically Caltech Panoma? How are you?
California Polytechnic.
Yes. They kind of had this idea of like, you know, we're all doing the same thing. There's not a lot of resources out there for like what you should be doing on a CubeSat because, you know, you can do anything you want, but at the same time, that's also a little daunting. So it'd be really nice to be able to bounce ideas off of, you know, other people in the same situation. So they started this group back in August and are now kind of just getting off the ground, and they are doing a hackathon actually this weekend, which is basically just locking themselves in their, well, I guess technically in their apartments now on Zoom for a weekend and trying to design a cheap CubeSat, basically. CubeSat for under $10,000, I think. And so as a part of the hackathon, they actually had a bunch of lectures this week, like this past week. And almost all of the videos are up on YouTube. I would really recommend going and watching them. I watched all of the ones that I could. They are amazing, especially if you aren't really familiar with like all of the CubeSat stuff and all of the technical stuff. They do a really good job of kind of breaking down each concept and really explaining it in depth and just making it really digestible, which is really nice. So I will go check that out, and we will post this link and a bunch of others in Slack a little bit later. And so this week, we're done with Python. That doesn't mean that you have to be done with all of the modules. It just means that we're not going to be providing work time during these general meetings anymore. So if you,
It's 11 o'clock.
If you're struggling with anything or need any help with any of the modules, then please reach out to us individually and we can just schedule time to work with anyone kind of during the week or just outside of the general meetings. We'll be moving on to CAD, which is computer assisted design. That'll be our next kind of a big unit, which will take a couple of weeks. And
yeah. And so I was just going to say, similar on the CAD thing, similar to how Joel had a bunch of challenges for like the different Python modules. It'll be similar. There's not like a site that you're going to have tutorials on because a lot of it is just you mess around with the software and you figure it out. But I think I will plan to have sort of a tutorial video or something. And then it's pretty self-explanatory. And then I'll make, in the mech team too, we'll make a bunch of like challenges that you can complete. And hopefully we can print them out at a later date too, because although the software is simpler than things like SolidWorks, it does allow for 3D printing capabilities. So you can take home what you make.
That'd be cool. Alrighty, so we've talked about this. I've talked about this the last couple of meetings. We're making the website. If anyone is category separated group for the CubeSat, I think it's just gonna be like everybody's working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly used for the special systems and mechanical subteams though, right? Electrical will get to do more programming and maybe even some like circuit board and circuit design if we get to it.
Yep.
Thanks. If everyone can send me a headshot that looks as close to the picture of Joel up here as possible, that would be fantastic. You don't need to have like the background sorted out. I'll do that myself in Photoshop post-prod, but I just need pictures of everyone, you know, facing the camera, making sure that like from your waist up is unobstructed, like you're not holding anything. You have good lighting, a good angle. So just like you're well lit, there's no shadows really anywhere on your face. The camera, you know, is kind of as straight on as it can be, like no high or low angles would be appreciated. And then digital copies will work best. So I've gotten a couple of like pictures of pictures, just like printed out photos that somebody took a picture of. If you have anything that was like originally, you know, taken on your phone and you just send the picture from your phone, that's what a digital copy is. That would be great. If anyone is interested in getting interviewed, I've already talked to Katie, Elsa, and Gavin. But if there's anyone else, you know, I would love to interview you. It'll be really cool. You can, you know, talk to Elsa and Gavin. It's not the worst, right, guys? Not a terrible experience. You both came out of it. Okay. So for the headshots, this will mostly be for the Big Red Sat members. As AXP, we're going to be having a picture day in the spring, sometime soon. So yeah. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about CAD or any of the other announcements before we kind of get started on all of this? No. Okay. So we are going to start with the first team, Halo T1. If somebody wants to volunteer and talk about the ideas that you talked about last week, or if you guys met during this week at all, not last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. I know Elsa can't go because she can't talk unless she wants to type out paragraph after paragraph. Not so much.
Yeah, I know the teams put together payload descriptions as I'm screen sharing now. Hopefully the internet doesn't kick me out, but does someone want to talk around those? If there's anything else that you guys have to add.
Or we can pick somebody.
Yeah. Anyone from Payload 1 want to start?
I'm going to say Katie, you're on the Payload 1 team. And I know you were there at the meeting where we kind of decided what was going on. Do you want to just give a general overview?
I don't know. Not really, sorry.
That's okay.
So you say you're putting food into space. What do you have an idea of what food yet?
Oh, there's a lot of things we could do. Because it kind of depends on, because if we wanted to do, like, for example, something that could actually like give you food poisoning if you ate it raw, and then we could measure the temperature and like see if it's fully cooked, we could do like chicken or something that cooks at a temperature like that. Or you could do a marshmallow and make like a s'more or something like that. And that would be less likely to give us food poisoning. So I might want to go with like a marshmallow because they're
cooked on the sidewalk and stuff like that, or like an egg or something like that that cooks at a lower temperature. So we actually have like a chance of being able to cook it.
We
We
want
probably
to
don't want to
see
do
if
like
it's feasible.
Yeah.
If we can send food into space. If we can't, we're at least going to measure the radiation and measure what we could cook.
So are you going to have radiation sensors on your payload as well, or are you just going to try to measure that from how much the food cooks?
We're going to have radiation sensors.
And then we can make like a chart or something like that where it's like, okay, so based on the results we got with the marshmallow, you could cook this, this, and this in space and feasibly eat it. This, and this do not cook in space. You will get terrible radiation and or food poisoning. So we could make like a cool chart.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions, or can we go to payload 2? All right, sounds good. Somebody from payload 2? I know Evan had to leave.
I can do it.
Gavin? Okay, nice.
So we wanted to like see if we were able to observe the effects of time dilation in our payload, which in like a super simple, hard to explain way, it's kind of like how time can kind of change as an object gains velocity and like is farther closer to a gravitational body. So like our basic idea is we'll have one clock on Earth and like one in the payload, and we'll start them at the same time on the day of the launch. And then we'll like measure the time and see if the one on the payload like changes slightly while it gains speed and gains elevation. And we were doing research on like if there's a way we could increase our chances of observing that.
So are you going to have a measurement at the top too, like at the apogee, or just after it lands?
I think we should do like continuous measurements of like, or recordings of the time, so we have like the best chance of catching it if it ever happens.
You said you wanted to increase your chances to try to watch this phenomenon happen. What was a method that you wanted to do to try to increase those chances?
We're not sure yet, but we were kind of brainstorming that. One idea I kind of thought of was maybe we like set the clock on like a table connected to a motor and have it spin, or like help it gain velocity, which will increase our chances. Sure. And we'll have to have like a super precise clock because the difference probably won't be much at like the speed and height we're going.
Sure.
I know that one of the main things you guys were looking into 3 weeks ago was if you were going to be able to find a clock that was going to be small enough and precise enough. Have you looked into that any more, or?
A little bit more. I'm still kind of searching for something that could do that.
For sure.
Any preliminary ideas?
Any what?
Any ideas of what that would be yet? Like, do you have any leads?
Mainly just like scientific clocks, which is pretty broad.
Okay.
But no, we're still like looking into that.
They use atomic clocks for to measure the change when the planes are flying. So
that would be a good option.
Yeah, and they sell them. They sell them at Target and Walmart and other places like that, but I don't know how accurate those would be. So I guess you just have to find a more reputable source.
How big are those?
Some are like wall clock size, others are like alarm clock size. I think some of them are smaller. I'm not sure. I didn't look into the size.
How big is the payload?
It's about the size of, I mean, think like a 1 liter water bottle, maybe a little bit shorter than that.
And it has to weigh around, I think we can safely say that each payload can weigh about a pound or maybe a pound and a half.
I wouldn't go that much. I would go aim for like a half pound. If it really has to be more than that, then that's fine. But we want to cut down on weight as much as possible because we're cutting it very close right now.
I think we can manage that.
Cool. Okay, awesome. Any more questions for payload 2?
Yeah, sorry. Did you guys have any like backup plans just in case you weren't able to find a clock? Or
Not really. One backup plan is just like a classic thing that like all balloon launch payloads kind of do is we just measure gases in the atmosphere, which would still be cool. And it's been done before, so we'd have a lot more information on that.
One idea that I've seen just on lists on the internet was take 2 pretty simple clocks, they have to be simple for this, and send one on the ground, send one up, and you can use the change in temperature of the electronic circuits on the clock and see the way that affects the time displayed on the clock. And then you can measure the time change due to the temperature change. Not quite time dilation, not quite that complex or interesting, but it is a very important kind of experiment to be performed when you're talking about electronics in space.
How would you know if the change that you're seeing is due to temperature or time dilation?
If you have a cheap clock, so the time dilation that we'd be measuring with this is going to be in the very, very tiny fractions of a second, like not even a millisecond.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a clock that's simple enough to just slow down as the circuits get colder as opposed to just break, it has to be, again, very, very simple for that to work, then time dilation won't be any major source of slowing down or speeding up, I guess, but slowing down.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Anything else for payload 2?
Not really.
All right. Sounds good. What about payload 3? Anyone want to talk about that?
I can, I guess. Our plan was to like make a very cheap version of the CubeSat and like test all the parts, but cheaper and off-brand, to just see how they react in the upper atmosphere, and maybe putting some silicon cells on there to also test, just have that there for solar panels. And we were thinking about maybe using a nanosat, probably using a nanosat to do this.
Awesome.
So on here it says we are testing better hooks. Is that a payload specific, like payload 3 specific thing, or is that just in general for the HAB?
I think more in general.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly going to be more of the mech team for AXP doing that, but there is a possibility that, payload 3 can maybe provide input as well. Do you have a source for the silicon cells?
I don't think we do. That was just like, if time allows, maybe try and put some silicon cells on there to imitate having the perovskites on the CubeSat.
And then I guess I don't really know too much about the NanoSat, but how much programming is necessary to get that up and working?
I don't think there's much to it. Joel, you did the initial research on the nanosat that we have.
Yeah, so the one that we do have right now, they have a giant GitHub repository with a lot of different options. Now, I believe you can interface some more with what's already provided and like write your own custom code to do slightly different things. But I believe there is a working body of code on it already, or if not on it, you just have to upload it from GitHub. But if you wanted to just go from scratch and then compare what these professionals have put together, that could also be a nice experiment too. A nice learning process, maybe not experiment.
It's really small. When they say nano, it's nano.
Like how big?
I'll go this big. I can get to the dimensions. It's in a case, so when I opened the case, it was probably a couple inches by a couple inches. That seem about right, Joel?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I feel like that it's some standards that's smaller than a CubeSat. I can't remember it off the top of my head right now.
I thought it was like 5 centimeters on each side, right? Or is that not?
That might be, yeah. Well, after we've kind of shared this, do we want to split up into breakout rooms to kind of do some work? Okay. But I believe we do have just some last reminders before we move on, if I can choose the right one. Here. Yeah, so we'll break up into work time. John, you have the breakout rooms, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to try and do them by the teams really quickly? But just as a reminder, next week, the concept design review will be happening. Hopefully you guys are able to meet after this. But yeah, we'll have to communicate with those other team members that aren't here right now. And yeah, if you guys need help, please reach out to some of the AXP members. I think we'd be happy to join in on any meetings that you might have, just to go over the presentation a little bit. But I think after hearing just a little description, I can say at least I'm very excited to see your guys' concept design reviews next week. Yeah. There's and additionally in Payload 3, that chat, I just posted a GitHub link to that body of code, and I think they might even have some CAD drawings of the nanosat there, if you guys want to check that out.
Okay. Joel, do you think you could pull up the team assignments? Sorry, I don't have to flip back and forth.
Here.
Thanks.
Yep. I'm gonna go back really fast. Yep. Have subteams. Yeah. So I don't know, MJ, did you have an idea of if you wanted to directly work with them to set up meeting times every week for the HAB team, or just leave it to them?
If you guys like, need us to, I guess, intervene or get kind of the ball rolling, we absolutely can. But I think, you guys can probably figure it out, like just what time works for everyone. We usually use when to meet. Yeah, when to meet, which is a website that everybody can just kind of like fill out their availability, and then you can see like which time works for, the most amount of people. But like deciding, the length of each meeting, how long or how frequently you want to meet, and all that kind of stuff, that's up to you. If you want, one of us to be there, then reach out, and whoever is available can swoos. But yeah, does that sound good to everybody? Or would you rather, we kind of send out the surveys, people do it on their own? For sure. It looks like Joel just posted the when to meet link in the chat.
Yeah.
Use that. Just make your own survey and then send out like each discrete link to each individual group. It's very easy.
Okay, cool.
I just put the link to the NanoSat in the chat for everyone, so you can see the size, dimensions, and any other information.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, we'll probably split up the groups and send you guys into breakout rooms. And then if you need help with anything, if you have any questions, I think you can like raise hand or do like a broadcast, and then somebody from AXP can swoop in.
Yeah, or just in the chat. Yeah, or the Slack, I mean.
MG, out of curiosity, has everyone seen the start of the website? Because it's really looking good. Really looking good.
Thanks. We showed it last time we met, but there's been quite a few updates, I guess, since then. Yeah, just kind of some upcoming stuff. And then if you go to, do that one. These are everybody's beautiful faces. I'll put the teams that everybody was on. When I did this, we didn't have everybody placed yet, so those aren't on there. But we won't be using last names or anything like that. Just kind of keep everyone's privacy. And then if you get the headshots in, then that'll be where that stuff goes. This is the advisory board page so far. The only bios on there were the ones that were already made. So I have to type up the other ones. But yeah. And then these are all of the people that, well, not all of them. I don't know if you guys have seen John Graham yet, but a lot of the people who came and gave us advice.
Yep. I don't know, for the breakout rooms, I don't know, AXP people, do you have preferences on which rooms you go into?
I think like somebody's called on, then they'll go into each room, if that makes sense.
Well, like I was just thinking, like room 2. Gavin's the only one from his team here right now. It's like I'm just not gonna like banish him off on his own.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, Gavin.
I don't know.
Do you want to put Alyssa and I in 2 then?
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
where am
else
I going?
has other people. Sorry, what did you say?
Okay.
Nick?
Where am I off to? Am I in mechanical or systems?
I mean, you can go wherever you want.
All right.
Which payload did you want?
Oh, wait, so this payload.
Payload 3, maybe? I
Sure.
feel like just, a sign that is the right place.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And Shazia, any preferences?
No, I don't have a preference. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
No, you good. Shazia, how about I throw you in room 1 then?
Okay, cool. That's good.
All right, then I think that should be good. I'm gonna open up all the rooms, and if I don't see you again, see you next week.